Organized religious conversion is routinely framed in the language of personal faith and individual liberty, but on the ground, it operates as a calculated, undeclared geopolitical war, specifically targeting the demographic and cultural identity of a sovereign nation. The most aggressive campaigns are highly localized. Syndicates deliberately target India's strategic frontlines to create artificial demographic imbalances, focusing heavily on the northeast, Punjab, and the districts of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar that border Nepal. The realpolitik consequence of this strategy is severe. History consistently demonstrates that when the native demography of a border region is artificially altered, it almost inevitably breeds separatism and fractures the sovereignty of the state. The allegiance of these newly converted populations is often systematically redirected. Instead of loyalty to the nation-state, they become ideologically anchored to the foreign ecosystems that fund and govern their new religious networks. Despite this highly organized institutional strike against internal security, the state's defense relies on a weak, patched-together system of disparate local laws. You cannot secure a physical border if you do not first secure the demographic reality living along it. This flowchart traces the actual money trail. The conversion syndicate operates on massive international funding, often disguised as social service or education. These funds flow through shell companies and non-governmental organizations exploiting the FCRA. The FCRA, or Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, is the Indian law meant to regulate how foreign donations are received and used domestically. With these funds secured, the syndicate zeroes in on the socio-economic vulnerabilities of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. In remote areas, they deploy a web of economic allure, superstitions, and staged miracle healing to exploit poverty. This is the exact cultural erasure that indigenous leaders fought against. Bhagwan Birsa Munda gave his life resisting the conversion mafia of his time, yet that same machinery remains highly active today. To deflect legal scrutiny, these syndicates weaponize Article 25 of the Indian Constitution. Article 25 guarantees the freedom to freely profess, practice, and propagate religion, which they falsely claim gives them blanket permission to run institutional conversion drives. But the judiciary has already dismantled this argument. In the landmark 1977 Reverend Stanislaus v. State of Madhya Pradesh verdict, the Supreme Court of India drew an absolute, undeniable line. The court explicitly ruled that the fundamental right to propagate a religion does not include the right to convert another person. Imported narratives of personal liberty are being deliberately misinterpreted by these syndicates to provide a legal shield for the systematic cultural erasure of indigenous people. This machinery also heavily relies on asymmetric interstate crime. Deceptive marriages, widely recognized as love jihad, alongside identity fraud and human trafficking, are highly organized operations designed to move victims across state lines. This creates immediate jurisdictional paralysis. Perpetrators commit a crime in one state and quickly cross the border to seek shelter, knowing that local police forces face severe bureaucratic hurdles when pursuing suspects outside their own territory. Currently, only 10 to 12 Indian states have active freedom of religion acts, with wildly varying penalties. Watch how the network responds. Syndicates simply relocate their command centers into unprotected regions. These states become operational safe havens, allowing nationwide activities with zero legal friction. India is attempting to fight a heavily funded, globally coordinated institutional threat using a fractured, disjointed local strategy. The strategic solution is a severe, pan-India central anti-conversion law, a unified legal framework that entirely replaces the current patchwork system. State police simply do not have the mandate, the reach, or the resources to untangle complex international shell companies or crack hawala networks. Hawala is an illegal, trust-based system used to transfer money across international borders without moving any physical currency. To sever the foreign funding pipelines, national financial task forces like the Enforcement Directorate must be given the explicit nationwide authority to freeze and dismantle these specific financial assets. A central law would formally empower agencies like the National Investigation Agency to prosecute organized conversion, human trafficking, and radicalization exactly as they are, interconnected federal crimes. The immediate operational result of a pan-India law is the absolute eradication of domestic safe havens. It leaves the syndicates with no legal gray areas left to exploit anywhere on Indian soil. Can a sovereign nation afford to watch the methodical dismantling of its civilization and simply call it individual freedom? A nation that fails to protect the integrity of its demography will inevitably fail to defend the borders of its geography.